Hi, families. It is Cheryl from Tutoring with Cheryl, and I am here to talk to you about a really important struggle for parents. And it's really focused on why some children struggle to learn to read. You might have 3 kids at home. You might have 4 kids at home. You might only have one child at home. And maybe for you, reading was not a struggle and it was something super, super simple for you to do. And you're just like, yeah, this is so easy for me to do. I have absolutely no problems with reading. Why does my child struggle? Well, what I want to point out to you is that reading is not natural like talking. But I want you to consider how your child learns to talk. Your child learns to talk by mimicking you, right? So they're hearing what you're saying. You're asking them to verbalize what you're saying. You might even be giving them, like what I just did, cues, prompts with your hands. You might be, maybe you're using some sign language. And so they're taking this idea and they're cementing it in their brain with lots of positive feedback and encouragement from you, and you're taking it really slow, right? So that's a super simple and easy thing to do. We teach our children to talk by talking to them. But some people think that we teach our children to read by reading to them. And I would love to say that the more that you read to a child, the easier reading will be. I think elements of reading will be easier if you read to your child. Absolutely. Because when you read to your child, you are encouraging their love of language. You are giving them experiences outside of what you maybe happen to have on a daily basis. If you're reading about a fun story about penguins, they're learning about an animal that maybe isn't right outside their door. And they're learning that a penguin is a type of bird, but it doesn't fly. And so this penguin could either live in a really cold area or well, lives in a really cold area and likes to spend time in the water. Unlike the robin that is outside of your window that lives in a tree and comes and goes, it is not here all the time. And so then you talk about those experiences and you provide background knowledge for your child so that when they're reading something later and they're in school, they have an experience to draw upon. But the reading part is not a natural part. We don't wake up realizing that letters have sounds and they correlate. It's like this it's a language that we have to like figure out. We don't wake up knowing that we read from left to right. We don't wake up knowing that when we put lots of words together, we make something called a sentence and we use that to communicate. It's not something that we naturally learn. So it is hard for some kids, and understanding the correlation between letters and sounds and putting it all together for some kids is just really, really difficult. So what I want you to understand is even though it's not natural, it doesn't mean that it can't be learned. Okay, and because reading is a learned skill. Now, there is a difference between effort and the skills gap. So, let's say you're going to go into school and you're finding out for the first time that your child's behind in reading. Do not want you to ignore this, okay? It is really, really interesting when parents hear that their child is behind in their reading and they think, oh, well, that's not a big deal. I'll totally worry about that next month. That's not a problem. We'll just read more. And your teacher actually might just say, just go ahead and read more. Reading more is going to help your child. It will in a way, but if your child has a deficiency in being able to identify B from D or P and Q from each other, or gets all four mixed up, or if your child doesn't understand that the letter C can say k or s, or if your child doesn't understand that the difference between short sounds and long sounds, or doesn't understand specific vowel patterns, or can't decode multisyllabic words with many parts, sounds like alphabet, that's a skills gap. Okay. And so you have to be able to identify where the skills gap is. I'd like to say your teacher would be able to identify that, but here's the honest truth. I am a former school teacher, and I can say without a doubt that there were, if unless I was only working with one child at a time, I would not be able to tell you without spending some time independently working with your child where their skills gap was. Even if they took assessments, they're taking these assessments most likely on the computer. And if your child struggles with computer skills, will still might not know. Okay. So there's going to be a skills gap there. So they can work as hard as they want and still not be able to read. Okay. Here are some common causes for not being able to read. Remember when I was referring to letters and sounds that go together? That's phonics, understanding that letters have sounds and what those sounds actually are. And then when a child comes across a word and they've learned that they have to read from left to right, but they don't know what the sounds are, or maybe they can sound those sounds out independently, but they can't blend them together, those are decoding problems. Or maybe your child can read all of the words on their own, but when they're put into a sentence, they struggle because there's too many words in the line, or they don't really understand why is it written like this instead of just on this little flashcard that I'm used to seeing. And so it's going to slow down their fluency. And if your child's a slower reader, they're using a lot of brain power just to read the information, so they can't necessarily remember what they've read. So that fluency piece, being able to read, is affecting their comprehension. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear teachers saying, well, we're going to do weekly reads, and we're going to be monitoring their fluency. Well, unless there's a lot of other things going on in the background, their fluency probably isn't going to increase. And so these are common causes of reasons why kids struggle to learn to read. And so, a lot of times teachers will even make the mistake of saying, well, what do you think that word says? Instead of helping them actually sound out the words. And so these are just common root problems that can hold your child back. It's nothing that the teacher is doing wrong. The teacher is teaching to the masses. I've been there, I've done it, I've had to do it myself. But what I've found by my years of tutoring kids one-on-one is when you can isolate where the gap is and fill that skills gap in, the effort that they're giving goes down because they're finally getting it. Their fluency goes up, their reading ability increases, and it directly impacts their comprehension. Okay. And there's another element I think that is missing as well, and it's vocabulary. When your child has a low vocabulary because you're not using the highest words that you know in your household, it's going to slow them down in the classroom, believe it or not. So I'm really going to also encourage you to add vocabulary to that. And when you're just out and about and you see things, talk about what you're seeing and then try to use different words to explain what you're talking about. So if you see a car, what are all the ways that you can call that car? Is that car a hatchback? Is it an SUV? Is it a van? Is it, you can definitely use the word vehicle. What are ways that you can describe that car and really enrich the vocabulary of your child? Because the more words they hear from you or the stories that you read with them, that's just going to increase their background knowledge to make them understand the things that they're going to be learning in the classroom, let's say in their math classes or in their science classes or their social studies classes. Because the older the child gets, the more it becomes not just about the physical act of reading, but using what they're reading to make sense of the world around them. And if your child is behind, let's say they're entering third grade and they're still a struggling reader, it takes a lot longer to get caught up. So what I really want to encourage you to do is, if your child's in kindergarten or first grade and you're getting these reports that they're behind, but you don't know what to do about it, get help right away. Do not waste any time on that. Find either educate yourself on how to do it, or find somebody who can do it for you that can bridge that gap a lot faster than maybe what you can do, because you don't want to leave your child struggling. It's just don't leave your child struggling. There's a lot of hope out there because skills can be taught at any age, any age. But the younger your child is, the faster that gap will be filled so that they don't continue to struggle. And coming from the background of being a fifth grade school teacher for so many years, fourth, fifth, and sixth was really kind of where I hung my hat. And then becoming a reading interventionist in school and working with kids of younger ages, I can really attest to you that if those things would have been caught sooner, that gap would have been filled sooner, the child wouldn't be struggling as much, and grades overall will improve. Their attitude about school is going to improve, and they're just not going to feel like they're struggling so much. So look for either a resource that you can find that is very structured and will build phonics awareness and abilities, that works on writing, that works on spelling, that works on the reading. And that's what I'm going to ask you to look for if you're going to try to do this on your own. And then if you're looking for a professional help to help you, maybe you know somebody locally, find out what skills you already have. How would you address this problem with my child? And if you can't find anybody, contact me, because I can help your child, and your child will be able to read, write, and spell by the time we're done. Now, there are sometimes some situations where I get some students that become prolific readers and they can write really well with computer assisted technology, but when they go to sit down to do the spelling independently, they still don't have it. And I actually have a student right now in my practice that I've worked with for several years. I've gone through the programs that I've used with all my students, and he still refuses to use the skills that I've taught him. So we're going back over pretty much the same information, just focus on the spelling, because he was using so much bandwidth to do the reading and we excelled so quickly with the reading. We have to back up now and go work on the spelling. But that can happen with any child, right? Think about yourself. If you were going to go to the gym and you were really concentrating on one area, you're kind of hitting the other area, but maybe it needed to go back to be tweaked. That could actually happen. So my encouragement to you is that skills can be taught at any age, even if you're an adult learner. If you are an adult reader and you're still struggling and you're just like, I don't have anybody that I can reach out to, I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed that I can't read, or you're maybe you this English is your second language and you're just like struggling, find somebody that can help you. I can help you. um, Find somebody that will take you through the steps that you need to follow to get to the root of whatever the problem is. And that's going to start with an evaluation of some sort, an assessment of some sort, and maybe a simple short evaluation or an assessment to just get started. And then as that practitioner works with you longer and longer, they're going to see the other areas that you need support with, or you're going to say, I see this in my child, or I see this in myself. And then you can tell them, and then that plan of action can change. And it should change. If it stays the way that it always is, that's not a good thing. It needs to change as the skills of the ability of the child or the adult changes. And so that's also a good thing. So I think the key to this on why some children struggle to learn is that we need to understand we're going to wrap this up, that reading is not natural like talking. There's a difference between effort and the skills gap. Some common root causes of this are deficiencies in phonics, decoding, fluency. I'm going to add vocabulary as well. Guessing strategies aren't going to work. If you ask a child to guess, they're always probably going to give you the wrong word, so don't ask them to guess. And that the hope is that these skills can be taught at any point in time, but an assessment for whatever the need is going to be able to identify that a lot faster. And once it's identified, then targeted skills practice can take place, and you're going to see a huge improvement, and the kids are going to love school again. They're not going to be staying home, be chronically ill because they don't want to go to school. They're struggling. They're embarrassed. They're frustrated. They don't want to go and do the things that you think that they should be doing because they just can't do it. And that is no fault of their own. That's just the way their brain learns, and maybe it needs to be slowed down so that they can learn it, and it needs to go at their pace, and then it needs to be a mastery situation where they're mastering it before moving on. And so find somebody that can do that for you. And my link will be in the description down below. And you can use the Tutoring with Sheryl website and fill out the contact page, and we can start the conversation. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. You guys make it a great day. And as usual, keep the learning going.